I'm Eric Barden.
I'm Amy Barden.
And welcome to BomBardened Podcast. I spent 38 years in the Seattle Police Department as the Deputy Chief of Police. It's also where I met my beautiful wife, Amy, Dr. Barden.
My career was almost the opposite. I spent 20 years in nonprofit administration, really analyzing what interventions work. I moved back to Seattle to a public safety job in the city, designing the alternative to policing, actually. Do you remember when we did the Humankind podcast? The first time you spoke, I interrupted you and corrected you. And he said, I am dying to know what your dinner table is like. What is that conversation? I get asked that all the time. And it's been interesting to realize that it's unique, that we tend to put ourselves in little echo chambers. You and I have some very different perspectives, even though I think our values are the same. And I think it's compelling to actually be able to look at these challenges, to look at human behavior, both through that lens of accountability, of justice, and also through the lens of mercy and compassion and support.
I came from an enforcement. 38 years in the Seattle Police Department, arresting bad guys. That's what I did. And you come from the nonprofit sector and really leaning into...
I don't even believe in bad guys.
Right. Pollyanna, it's all good. What is really compelling for me is that you and I have discussed these issues, and at the end of the day, we're really, really getting close to some of the same answers for some of these problems, but we come at them from wildly different perspectives, and that's what people have said they wanted to hear, because we do. We banter, we disagree on perspectives, and
you're often wrong.
Well, we'll see. So that's what's kind of fun about this, but people do want to hear the back and forth. Amy has a doctorate in the human mind and learning and education, and I feel like I have a doctorate from the mean streets of Seattle. And so, we both have strong convictions, and they're often not aligned, but oddly, we can find common ground to where we can agree on potentially our solutions that are beneficial for those involved.
Yeah, I think this country, there's a desperate need to get back to civil debate and actually discussing issues through multiple lenses. We were just in D.C. listening to the House, listening to the Senate, and I left thinking this is ludicrous. This is theater, right? We're not having a thoughtful discussion about what the problem is and what the potential solutions are. And until we get back to that, to something that is more pragmatic, I just don't think we're going to solve anything. And I think the extremes are wrong. I think law and order, that we're going to arrest our way out of this, that's just false. And I also think do nothing, compassion, civil liberties above all, that is just wrong, and it's not compassionate.
Yeah. There's so many issues that interest us both that we talk about often around the dinner table, whether it be homelessness, whether it be crime, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be public order, whether it be
immigration, identity politics.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. Yeah. The carceral system, mental health, whatever you want to talk about, we probably debate it. But so we wanted to bring BomBardened podcast out because we think that we demonstrate that folks can have very different perspectives and yet still find common ground and do so in a way that is mutually beneficial. I have certainly learned from Amy's perspectives, and I don't know, maybe she's learned a perspective or two from me. But that's really to Amy's point about, having had society has lost the ability to have respectful debate. It's so important. That's the whole premise for free speech, is that you should be able to say things even if people don't like it.
Right.
And that words, sticks and stones, right? Let's get back to that, right? So Amy and I will disagree a lot. And because we're married, we're going to keep the marriage as the priority, but it does get a little spicy once in a while. So, it's just an important thing to demonstrate that people can have different opinions and still care deeply about each other and care deeply about society in general.
Well, and all the things we're talking about, I maintain it is subjective. This is not math. I just reject that notion. Anytime these days somebody starts with research says, I just want to walk away, because that in and of itself is an ignorant statement. Our understanding is always evolving and people are different. And I remember actually day one at Vanderbilt, that was what really stuck with me. The program director said, when it comes to human behavior, don't ever look for causation. You're not going to get there. And because there's just too many factors. There are factors things happen in utero. There are things that are totally invisible to us. But even correlation is very, very hard to articulate. So you're basically...
So there's no answer to everything.
It's just that it's subjective. And because it's subjective, there should be lots of...
I accept that premise from there's wide variation in people, and that what lands for you may not land for me. I disagree with the idea that there's not some pretty common things that have pretty similar impacts to vast majorities of swaths of our country.
Well, I think all humans, it goes back to the mammal ring. I'm always saying incentives and deterrents. We absolutely have to have that, and we pattern. And it has always been so.
Yep. You'll be able to find us on social media. Please take a look at our short clips as well as our long-form podcasts. We hope that you enjoy it.
The BomBardened Podcast is a Barden Squared production. Executive producers are Eric Barden and Amy Barden, and video and audio production of the BomBardened Podcast is by Thread Theory Creative.